First things first, how are you?
Great.
Great, man. Good yourself?
I'm alright, thank
Nice.
you. Okay, before we talk about the record and why you're here, um, what was, now I might pronounce this wrongly, but Lucan.
Lucan, spot on. You got it dead right there, bro, yeah.
What kind of area was this to grow up in?
Yeah, it's a lovely area. It's kind of a suburb on the west side of Dublin, southwest of Dublin, close to the Kildare border. So it's kind of a country-esque kind of area. It's got a small village. It's built up. It's quite built up now with houses and stuff. But it's an old village with a lot of history and a great place to grow up in.
And Dublin obviously has a rich musical history. What was it like over there?
In Lucan,
Yeah.
there's actually there's some good bands breaking out. There's a band called Bell X1.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard them here. They're quite big in Ireland and quite big in the UK and America as
yeah.
well. But and Damien, you know Damien Rice?
Sure.
Yeah, he's just from around that area as
Okay.
well. A place called Selbridge, just out the road. There's another girl, Lisa Hannigan.
Hmm.
She's from Leixlip, which is just a kilometre away as well. So it's quite a good area for music.
Okay. And so for you, how was pursuing music cultivated in you?
Sorry?
How was pursuing music cultivated in you? What got you into music?
Well, for me, I suppose we both different answers, but for me, it was Oasis.
Okay.
I started listening to them when I was younger. My brothers were playing it in the house, and you know, it was one of the first live concerts I went to see.
Mhm.
And after that concert, I went, geez, I want to be in a band. So set up a band pretty much the week after called The Relic, and with just some friends from school. And it was, I guess, in hindsight, we thought it was very original music, but in hindsight, it was kind of more of a tribute Oasis band, I think. So that's how we first got a real taste for wanting to be in a band.
What was it about them that kind of caught your attention?
I think for me as a kid, it was more than music. It was a whole movement going on.
Mm.
It was like they were the band of our generation as as a young teenager, and you know, it was just really caught on. Like it was one of these bands where, you know, you wanted to buy every single, even though you had most songs on the album, you'd want to buy the singles because there'd be B-sides on it, and Liam Gallagher used to normally sing on the B-sides. It'd be Noel Gallagher that would sing on them, so that was a draw for getting the singles. And it was just it was just one of them bands that kind of really drew me into music. And then from there, then I started listening to other bands like The Cure, and then listening to kind of stuff that beyond in my house was I was growing up, like Queen's Clearwater Revival, Can't Heat, Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, The Beatles, The Kinks, that kind of stuff. And then my older brother would be listening to bands like The Cure and bands like that.
And how old were you when you two meet?
4 or 5 in
Okay,
primary school.
So and then did you always know about each other that you like music?
We were friends, but we never really. I suppose we did as teenagers. We would have known Jay was into music.
Yeah, Oasis was, like Matt said, for me as well, Oasis was kind of a band that got me into music. And it was like Oasis versus Blur at the time. There was no other bands really. That's how they marketed it or whatever, and it seemed to be just work amazingly well. It was you were either Oasis, and it was mostly Oasis. Now it wasn't much Blur, but Blur were there as well. And we just kind of jumped on that train, and then you know we played in a band then before this called Crimson Lizard together with the bass player, and then from that band came the Riptide Movement plus the drummer. So yeah, no, we've been playing together since for a good while.
Okay. And the Crimson Lizard, what kind of music was it?
It was kind of rock and roll as well. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit different, but it was kind of rock and roll. We were just kind of getting our feet. Well, Mal was playing actually a lot longer. He was playing in a few bands, but that was kind of my first band, so we're just kind of getting our feet. But yeah, it was kind of rock and roll, a little bit of blues as well.
And you say, well, did you write by then? Did you write your own material? Because you say you thought you were original.
Well, kind of. I wouldn't exactly call it material back then, but I suppose I kind of seriously got into writing. I was in another band called the Serotones. I started writing learning how to write tunes then, and then I suppose just kind of growing as a songwriter then since then really. We've 3 albums. This is our 3rd album with the Riptide Movement. So, and we've been together as a band for 8 years. So there's kind of been, you know, a whole time period there for learning.
And
learning songwriting craft, I guess. Yeah.
And a big part of it was also busking, I believe, in Dublin and everywhere, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how that came about, because we would have been gigging around the country, like all over Ireland, in pubs. We used to play wherever we could, and we released our first album, What About the Tip Jars, in 2009, independently, and media and radio didn't really know who the band were, so they weren't really supporting the album or any of the songs on radio, so we found it very difficult to get radio play, get any notice. So bar the kind of 200 or 300 fans we had around the country, we said we needed to like find an avenue to try and get our music out there. So one day a couple of lads seen Jerry and Jay seen a band on Grafton Street, and they were plugged into car batteries, and they were powering guitar amps and stuff, and they were selling lots of albums. And the lads came back telling us all when we were jamming, and we said, geez, that'd be a good thing for us to do, you know. So we went out there with the albums, and we'd set up on a Saturday. We used to have to go in around 6 o'clock in the morning, because it's very competitive to get the spots. And then between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the day was when we play, and we used to sell about 100 albums.
What was the first time like?
The first time was it's kind of mixed, because it's like anything else. It takes time. Like when we first went out, we just go out and play all the songs, and some songs get good reactions, some wouldn't. But then we found after a while that there was 3 songs that people really were drawn towards, and they were Thieves in the Gallery, Keep On Keeping On, and Hot Tramp. 3 songs off our album Keep On Keeping On. And we found if we played the 3 of them songs, we played the Thieves in the Gallery first, and the crowd would start building. We played Keeping On, then it'd be a massive crowd, it'd be blocking half the street. And then the 3rd song we played would be Hot Tramp, and it'd be real kind of a festival atmosphere, you know. There'd be people of all ages, like babies, and because there'd be people that'd be just walking through town, minding their own business, and they could be going catching a bus, or they could be going shopping, and then they would be just drawn in, and next thing they're buying our albums. So we used to play the 3 songs, we'd build a massive crowd, then we'd stop. They'd come buy the albums, we'd stop for 5-10 minutes, and that crowd would go, a new crowd would come. And that's we got gigs all around the world from that alone, because anyone that came to Dublin would come through Grafton Street.
Main street, main thoroughfare there. So we got gigs in Russia and India. Okay. We got people from all over the world, like just emailing us from America, from Australia, just saying we went through Grafton Street and picked up an album, and it was great, you know. Okay. And then we were able to get gigs from it, so it was great. It's great. It's a great experience. We kind of honed. It made us very comfortable in playing in front of crowds and trying to get crowds going, and that kind of lent itself to when we had to play live on big stages, where we'd have to work the crowd that you might, if it's not your crowd, you have to work the crowd, and we kind of got to do that at Grafton Street, and we were able to apply that then when we were on the big stage. So we learned a lot from it. It was really beneficial in many ways, you know.
Definitely, yeah.
Did you figure out a way to win over the crowds then? Something you maybe use now still? Or
we used to shout. We used to holler. Okay. We used to make kind of big choruses and stuff, and just to get anyone's attention. But like I said, Mal said, the 3 songs really worked, because it's a really busy street, and people don't want to be stopping for like half an hour, but they will stop for 10 minutes. And it was really quite effective if someone buys an album and everyone comes in and buys one. So really, the whole 3-song thing, really 3-song trick, worked pretty well.
But it was interesting as well. It was only them 3 songs, because we tried other songs and you wouldn't really get the same.
So is that something you take with you now to festival gigs or something like that, where you think about which songs you'll play first to draw them in?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always a case where any gig that you play, you'd kind of look at the set list and see how it's going to run, as in, if it's an hour and a half set, you might stagger it more, so you might kind of go down and come back up. Or if it's a half-hour set, would you go for the jugular kind of and hit all? Or if it was 45 minutes, you'd kind of stagger it a bit more. Like, so it does depend on the length of the set, yeah.
Yeah, and you try and use the roller coaster analogy, where, well, for us, where we come in and we start big, and then you can't keep that relentless juggernaut pace for a whole hour and a half. So you come in big with some big songs, big choruses, and then you kind of ease down a bit, play a few of the kind of softer songs, and then you ease it back up, and then you finish big. That's what works for us.
Do you miss it now, busking?
No, no. It was great. It was great for the time. Like, it's like everything has a time and a place. Right. And for that time, it was great, and it really helped us. It helped us. I suppose forge our songs for our next album, Keep On Keeping On. It helped pay towards that album as well, and then when we would just keep on keeping on, then it was time to, you know, move on. At that stage, anyway, we were playing bigger shows, bigger festivals, and kind of touring around. So we didn't really have time to do it anymore.
But so if I understand it correctly, it was mostly out of necessity. You wanted to get the word out, and you wanted to cultivate an audience.
Oh yeah. Because I think a lot of people think it was that, because usually I suppose bands or musicians would start off busking, but we didn't actually start off busking. We started as a band and we were playing venues. So like it wasn't uncommon for us to say we would have been playing in Cork on a Friday night, and then we'd arrive back from Cork at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and 2 of us would have to go in and get the spot at 6 in the morning. Then we played from 12 to 2, load all the gear back in the van, and then we could be in Galway that night. So even, you know, the Oxygen Festival, and it's a big festival in Ireland. They don't do it anymore, but there was like, I remember we were playing down there and there was bands like The National and The Strokes, and they were all, you know, backstage, and now on the Whale, we're all having beers, and then we were back in the van at 2 o'clock in the morning heading to Grafton Street to get our spot at 6 o'clock. So it was like, one night you're here with all these big stars and you kind of feel part of it. You're playing to thousands of people, and then the next morning you're in reality on Grafton Street.
So we don't miss it.
What does this such a juxtaposition in a way do to an artist or artist? What does it? Because you did have a conviction to keep going, to keep.
Yeah, I think it builds you as like as Jay says. We learned or kind of honed our live shows from Grafton Street, and then I guess that whole independent, because we were an independent band at the time, and that whole thing where, you know, it's just yourselves, it's just the 4 of us, with no management, with no booking agents, and we had to do it all ourselves, and that kind of thing really binds together, I think, a band. That's what makes a band, because if you go through all that together, it's, you know, it's a solid foundation for when it comes to what we're doing now, trying to break internationally.